I'm not saying there's a problem, but this might be a problem. Hello everyone, welcome back to Kirklees Guitar School. So something a little bit different here that I'd like to try on the channel is I've dug everything out in my kind of Christmas clean, and I want to kind of do a rundown of what's in the collection, what I use, how do I use it, and why do I justify keeping all of these tools in my arsenal. Now, gear's a really big thing for a lot of guitarists who get kind of borderline obsessed with it. I need you to remember in this scenario that I'm a guitarist for hire, I'm a working guitarist, and I make my living playing and teaching the guitar. Every guitar that I've got here serves a purpose, and I've played for over 20 years. So I think, yes, it seems a little bit excessive, but at the same time, if I buy a new guitar every year that makes my living, that's how you end up with a collection like this. I'm going to break down each one individually, tell you what I do with it, and how I get the most out of what I've got. Okay then, let's start in Gibson land. So the main kind of acquisition of 2025 was this, which is a Gibson Les Paul Custom in black. It's from 2004. And randomly, just somebody walked into the studio one day, somebody that we teach, and just kind of said, I've got this under my bed, would you be interested? And I was like, yeah. So this has been a bucket list guitar of mine for a long time. I think of people like Mick Ronson, Justin Hawkins from The Darkness. The list goes on and on and on of Les Paul custom players. And I just sort of thought, I always wanted one, but I would just sort of waited for the right. If I couldn't have got one on the second-hand market, I probably wouldn't have been able to. I wouldn't have been able to afford one. And this one, like, it's 20 odd years old and it's been played, but it just does everything a good Les Paul should. So yeah, it's a really almost a surprise addition to the collection this year. Unfortunately, the back pickup on this has gone microphonic. Now, what that means is if you've watched the podcast where I talk about this in Rock or Roll a couple of weeks ago, the pickups sometimes can go microphonic. Now, I don't understand the ins and outs of it, but all I do know is that when I plug it into an amplifier that's quite loud and I flick to the bridge pickup, it will start to shriek uncontrollably. And it's something to do with the pickup that can be fixed. I'm just waiting on, because we're sort of in between Christmas and New Year now. This will get resolved in the new year. I don't know whether to put some different pickups in it and potentially try that, or whether to get the original one fixed, but the jury's out on it. But you don't need much convincing to sort of hear how great it sounds. Up next is my 2016 Gibson SG Standard. Now, I've had this guitar for 10 years, and it was the first Gibson that I owned. I played guitar for 10 years before I could afford a Gibson, and Gibson brought these out. They were having some quality control issues in sort of like 2012 to 2015. And then I always wanted one with the batwing pickguard. Like, look at the grain on that. Now, what they call the batwing pickguard, there's two kinds of SGs. There's this one, which is the wider one, and then you get the 60s spec, which is just this one down here. I think somebody like Tony Iommi played the 60s spec ones. I always wanted one like Angus, but also as a kid, I watched School of Rock, and Jack Black's on the cover with a batwing SG, and I just thought it was the coolest thing that I'd ever seen. So when the Gibson announced those in like 2016, I couldn't really afford one, but I couldn't really say no either. And like I said, I'd owned 3 or 4 Epiphones up to that point, and I was just like, it's time. And I think it was a good decision. They're almost 50% more than what I originally paid for this. Now, it hasn't got as much airplay on the channel as it did the year prior. I mean, any kind of Doors, AC/DC, Robbie Krieger, Doors stuff, this is what I've done. But this, believe it or not, it's a really versatile guitar. You can sort of do the sort of cleany. But then if you smack it, etc., you know. This next guitar is an Epiphone ES-355. It's a signature model for a gentleman's name that I'm not even going to embarrass myself and try and pronounce. What's interesting about this guitar, so if you don't know anything about Gibson ES style guitars, the 335, the 345 and the 355 are essentially all the same model, but as the number increases, the guitar gets more luxurious. Okay, think of it as like specs in a car. You know, you've kind of got a mid-tier, and then a high spec. This is kind of the same for these guitars. So this is a really high spec, being the 355. It's got the Bigsby. But what's really interesting, these should be F-holes. These shouldn't be this triangular shape. These are borrowed from another Gibson model called the Trini Lopez. And what they've done is they've taken a 355 but put these different inlays on it. Now, I have a very complicated relationship with this guitar because when it works, it's awesome. It does the whole Bigsby thing. Really well. Some days it'll stay in tune, other days it doesn't. And sometimes I pick it up and I can't imagine my life without having this guitar. And then other days I just can't seem to get a good noise out of it. And I don't know why that is, you know. And I think these guitars in particular give you this sort of jangliness that's not available anywhere else. Now, when I bought this guitar last year, I was like, it was a bit of a sort of tester, really, because don't get me wrong, it was still an expensive guitar, but it wasn't Gibson 335 money. You know, it was Epiphone money. And they were really heavily discounted at the end of the run by like sort of £350. So I jumped on it. I thought, now's the time to try one. I do see in the future me replacing this for its Gibson counterpart, but I potentially not with the Bigsby. I think I'd like to try one with the... I've always wanted what they call the Clapton Spec 335, which is a 1964 335 with the small block inlays and a tailpiece like a Les Paul. I think it'd be a lot more stable, but I could see these guitars are so versatile. I could see me using it for a lot of applications. And just look at it. They're so cool, aren't they? You know? Awesome guitar. This next guitar is probably the one that I'm most kind of known for. A lot of people find me through a couple of particular lessons on YouTube, and I seem to be playing this Les Paul all the time. So what is it? This is my first, well, it's not my first vintage guitar. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but this is my first old Gibson that I've played. This is a 1982 Les Paul Standard. Now, some of you are saying, 1982? I've got socks older than that. It's old to me, okay? It's considerably older than I am. Now, I bought this from Guitar Village in Farnham 2.5 years ago, nearly 3 years ago, and it's just everything a good Les Paul should be. It weighs more than a small car, and it's been played as well. Like, the thing is, with the vintage guitar market, I love the whole kind of Joe Bonamassa thing where he's sort of keeping these old instruments on the road, albeit his collection's a little bit ridiculous even in comparison to mine. But he's using those instruments for their intended purpose. He's out on the road and using them. I wanted an older instrument that wasn't so valuable, not like a 60s Strat, that I wouldn't be frightened to take out and use in gigs. And this guitar kind of fit that because the 50s stuff the 50s Gibsons you could buy a house, a 4-bedroom house for what some of those guitars go for. The 70s ones are kind of, you can't find anything below 10 grand. And then the 80s ones are kind of just that little bit more expensive than the standards that are putting out now. And I just thought, it's time. It's everything a good Les Paul should be. It's a very dark sounding guitar. And when I first got it, I wasn't sure. And the top isn't particularly well figured, but the fact that it's subtle, I really, really like. Now, I don't know, you won't be able to see, but it's all naturally checked and naturally aged. The frets have got barely any meat left on them. And whoever had this guitar before me, or the string of custodians before this guitar, can you see all the paint coming off on the headstock? it's been well loved, but it's also been played a lot, and I've got a lot of respect for that. You know, this guitar's definitely earned its keep. And you think of all that kind of, you know, any kind of good Les Paul. But then it'll bark when you want it to. Moving on to Fenderland, we're going to start with this. This is my 2017 Fender Flea jazz bass. Now, this was a gift from my wife. It was Christmas and birthday rolled in, and she actually surprised me with this. Now, nobody's really seen me play a lot of bass, but I do often make my own backing tracks, and I do teach the odd bass lesson from time to time, or even when we're hosting a band session at the school, I need to play bass because we don't have a bass player to sit in. And I always really enjoy it. I don't think I'd ever make it my sort of full-time instrument, but there's a lot to be said for sitting in the background and sort of locking in with the drummer. So a lot of you don't see this, but this is more a tool than anything else, you know. But also, can we just appreciate how good this bass sounds? It's a little bit warm. Let me just wind it back a little bit. But I'm a really big fan of people like James Jamerson. You know, even though it's the Flea bass, I can sort of do all the sort of slap stuff if I want, so I'm not going to embarrass myself on camera. But I'm a really big fan of the sort of Stevie Wonder. I'm not coming for Scott's bass lessons just yet, but I do really enjoy it when I get the time to play this. This guitar's been in my collection for the longest time. So this is a 1989 American Standard Strat. All my family chipped in for my 18th birthday and bought me a new guitar, and I couldn't afford I originally went in for a Highway 1 Stratocaster, which was like their kind of main offering at the time, Fender's main offering at the time. There was an old gentleman in a wonderful guitar shop called Northern Guitars in Leeds. I believe it's still there. And he said, oh, you don't want any of that stuff. Get an American Strat if you can afford it. And he sort of had a shuffle around in the back, and this is what he came out with. And when I first got this guitar, I thought it was broken when I brought it home, and I'll tell you why. I'd come from Gibsons and, Gibson-style guitars, I should say. I had a couple of Epiphones and that blue Ibanez I made a video out about a couple of weeks ago prior to this. And I just couldn't seem to get a good noise out of it. And that's because I was relying so heavily on humbucking pickups and lots of distortion hiding a lot of my sort of inefficiencies as a guitar player. So I plugged this in and it's crystal clean. You know, it's... especially with the maple neck as well, you know. You get that sort of... all that kind of... And I just couldn't seem to, like, it was noisy. I couldn't say, I was picking wrong strings. I wasn't used to the scale length, and I thought there was something up with it. And anyway, the more that I sort of, but I didn't have the heart to sort of tell my parents that this guitar that I'd been going on about, I wanted a Stratocaster for months and months and months and months. And I didn't have the heart to sort of tell them. I thought there was something up with it, but it wasn't. As time went on, I started to get a little bit more into people like Nile Rodgers and Chic and all that sort of... But I think the fact that I couldn't afford a brand new American Strat and I got a second-hand one meant that I bought this guitar at the bottom of the bell curve. So I give £650 for this guitar back in the day. And I've had offers from multiple people for twice what I've given for it, and a decent, especially like 80s Strat. They're just kind of getting collectible again, because a lot of people go, oh, I had one of them back in the day, and it's supply and demand, isn't it? Now, a lot of this wear is me. You see how the fretboard's going a little bit manky here. That's because I'm wearing through, because I've played it so much. I played this guitar exclusively throughout college and university, and I've put thousands of hours on this guitar. If you've seen me prior or in videos I've made before, this used to have a black scratch plate because I dropped it and broke it. It originally had a white one on, and then it had a black one on for probably 10 years, and I've recently just got Aquith guitar setups up the road to recommission it. But this was my first foray into serious Fender. Now, this guitar's not... I prefer rosewood necks on Fenders, but I didn't know any better at the time. And actually, the next guitar that we're going to have a look at really complements this one in the arsenal. So we've got the Sunburst Stratocaster up next. So this is a 1962 Spec. It's what they call the Lacquer series. Fender put out in about 2016, 2017. It's basically a Mexican Strat that's just got some extra, had a little bit of extra care and attention, but most importantly, it's got a nitrocellulose finish. Now, when you look at people like Rory Gallagher or Hendrix or anybody that's got a beaten up Strat and all the paint's kind of coming off it, Fender used to finish the guitars in all of the guitars in nitrocellulose lacquer, which ages lovely. Most Gibson guitars are still aged in nitrocellulose lacquer, but only the premium Fenders are now. And what happens is these guitars age lovely. Now, I'm not going to get it on camera, but this guitar, if you've worked with me professionally, I'll have played this guitar. I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gigs with this guitar, and it's covered in little scratches and battle scars. I've always looked after the guitar, but when you use these things, they do kind of get knocked about a little bit. And it's starting to kind of resemble, you know how people pay a lot of money for a custom shop that looks like it's been kicked around the car park? This guitar's probably about 12 months from being there. There's loads of little chips, and it's all part of the story. You know, this guitar's spent the most time with me out of the rest of them, and it's probably the least valuable out of most of them. But I've spent a lot of time with this guitar. I've had a lot of good gigs and a lot of bad gigs with this guitar. As I said prior, I really like rosewood necks. I think they sound a little snappier and a little bit more... When I'm playing professionally, I spend a lot of time sort of playing these little like Motown... and it does that sort of fourth position Knopfler thing really well, but also I can make it sound like Stevie Ray if I want to. Stevie Ray is one of my absolute idol guitar players. And this guitar's really fit for the job. I have put stainless steel frets in this. I actually played this guitar so much that I wore the frets out. I got Aquith guitar setups to put a set of bigger stainless steel frets in. I originally wanted Gibson frets. Putting in it like in my SG, absolutely massive ones, and Tristan up there said to me, let's go down a gauge or two and see how you get on with that, and then if you want to, we can go up again, because once you go bigger, you can't go backwards because they've got to physically take wood out of the fretboard, and that's just made this guitar a complete workhorse. I have sort of toyed with the idea of, because this guitar's not vintage nor collectible, it's just a tool. I thought about putting a Gibson Path pickup in the back and refinishing it, but doing that thing where they'll refinish it in, say, something like Fiesta Red, but just put a really thin coat on it, so over time the sunburst kind of creeps through. That's what I always wanted to do with this guitar, but I never kind of got there because I was too busy playing gigs and trying to earn a living. But I owe a lot to this guitar. It's a very, very, very important part of the collection and not going anywhere. Finally, in Fenderland, we've got my Jazzmaster. This is an American vintage reissue Jazzmaster. It's based on a 1966 nitrocellulose lacquer, colour matching headstock. It's an absolutely awesome guitar. Now, this guitar I bought for, oftentimes now I buy guitars to do certain jobs. This guitar's meant to sound like Tarantino movies. That's the brief. That's what I want it to do. You know. Oh, I've not put the tremolo in. Basically, anything kind of surfy, dripping in reverb, or anything kind of jangly, you know, you think something like... any kind of like Johnny Marr style stuff, which it's a rabbit hole I'm just about to get into. This guitar, anything that a Strat or a Tele can't do, this is what comes out. I'm a really big fan of like 60s surf guitar and instrumental music, not just the Shadows, but like stuff from America as well, the Ventures, Dick Dale and the Deltones, the Safaris, all that kind of... such a cool sound. This guitar does it perfectly. Also, what this guitar does really well is the grunge thing as well. So if I need to do any kind of like Nirvana lessons or any of that sort of alternative 90s stuff, this guitar's a really good fit for it. I had it set up when I bought it. I bought it from Merchant City Music in Glasgow, and they set it up for me with 11 gauge strings over this massive scale length. It takes, like, I can't play it like I can play my Strat and play loads of like cool Stevie Ray Vaughan licks, but having those thicker strings really kind of makes the guitar sound full. It's excellent recording guitar. It'd never be my full-time. If I had a Desert Island guitar, this wouldn't be it, but when it comes out of the cupboard to do a job, it knocks it out of the park. Let's just briefly visit Acoustic Corner for a second now. I don't play that much acoustic guitar on the channel, or I haven't done this year simply because my J45 broke. So if you watch the podcast, or probably nearly 12 months ago, I dropped the J45, my Gibson J45, and broke its headstock. And then over time, the head has started separating. The glue has started kind of it happens sometimes. Anyway, I took it to my local repairer, and it's just been sort of at the back of the list of stuff that he's got to do. There's no malice in it. It's just not got there. I was hoping it was going to be ready for this video, but I'm not going to plonk that on him just before Christmas. So I think that deserves an honourable mention. I am looking to do quite a few more acoustic guitar lessons in the new year, but I'm hoping to have my J45 back because it's got an ace sounding pickup in it, and that's my main acoustic guitar. If you've seen me playing acoustic guitar sort of before last year, from sort of 2024 and previously, it was that guitar I'm playing. So I've just got a couple of these. A good friend lent me a Taylor recently that I've been using for a couple of lessons, but obviously I can't have that here full time. Here are a couple of the other acoustics that I kind of have kicking around the studio that I use. So this first one is going away shortly. This is an Enya Nova Go Sonic. This guitar is a smart travel guitar. It's one piece of carbon fibre, and I'm giving it away in a competition that I run every year called Riffmas. Now, Riffmas is it's a competition I run on my Facebook group every year, where I encourage participants to learn. I teach probably anywhere between 8 and 12, depending on how busy we are that year, little riff lessons, and people can chime in, record a little clip of them playing, and post it on the Facebook group, and that gives them a ticket into the draw. I'm giving away this with some other pedals and stuff as well. And yeah, I'm going to be sad to see this go. It's a great little guitar. Really interesting design, and it's kind of got a unique sound as well, but without being that out there that you'd never use it. None of you will have seen this guitar. This is a Yamaha classical guitar. Now, I do study classical guitar. I've done it in the past. Oh yeah, we're quite badly out of tune, so I'm not going to embarrass myself. But this is just a run-of-the-mill classical guitar. It's a CG 110. It's quite an old guitar. It wasn't brand new when I got it. But if you've ever not played a classical guitar before, they've got a really wide neck, and they've got classical guitar strings that are made of nylon, and it's a really interesting, different flavour. This only comes out when I'm practicing music reading in a classical sense, and actually, I'd be very surprised if this came out of the case within the past 12 months, to be honest. How cute is this little guitar? This is a Yamaha APX2. A good student who I've taught for a long time played this guitar when she was really little, and she needed a small guitar. And then when she outgrew it, I sort of reached out to the parent and sort of said, "Look, what are you doing with that little guitar? I'd quite like to buy it if that's okay." Only thing that I've done with this is I've put some classical guitar strings on it, and it just kind of makes it a really fun little Really fun little travel guitar. I'm a massive fan of the Yamaha APX series. If anybody's learning guitar and serious and has a couple of £100 to spend on a good quality acoustic guitar, I'll always recommend the Yamaha APX range, because you get a lot of value for your money, and also they hold the value really well as well. Now, I bought this as a because we do recitals at the school, and it's a good little acoustic guitar that plugs into an amp that I can give to a kid and they can play on stage without having to try and mic up a little three-quarter Chinese rubbish. I've also kind of thought, I've got a little person in my house that might want to learn how to play guitar when she gets a little bit older, and I kind of thought it'd be a really good fit for her. And again, it's not really come out of the case, but it was at the right money at the right time, and I'm just going to kind of put it away. And when it does come in, I'll be really glad that I bought it. This guitar came into the collection this year and was a gift from a student. Now, I had it's an Eko Ranger from the 70s. Probably a lot of people watching will have seen these guitars or even own a few of them. They do a 12-string variant as well, which I'm kind of, not too seriously, but I am looking for. This, and it kind of looks like a piece of folk art. Somebody's put a pickup in it and sort of fashioned their own like little scratch plate out, like an old bit of countertop or something. The lady that graciously gave this to me is 4'0" and was really struggling to play this guitar. It was just far too big for her, and it was a gift from somebody else to her. So she didn't want to sell the guitar, but she just didn't know what to do with it. Well, as I'd explained prior, my issues that I've had with the J45, I've been looking for a decent quality acoustic guitar to use while mine's in the shop. And anyway, she said you can have it. Now, I had an Eko Ranger years and years and years ago that was gifted from somebody else, and I played that guitar for a long time, and tragically, I put it in my loft, and we had a leak, and unbeknownst to me, we had a leak in the loft, and it ruined the guitar. It leaked right on the guitar and ruined it. I ended up taking it to the tip. It was a real shame. And as soon as she got this out of the case for one of the first lessons, I was like, that's an awesome guitar. I used to have one of those. I really miss it. And she must have remembered, and she graciously let me have it. Now, even when the J45 comes back, I will keep this guitar in the collection simply because it does. When I'm recording and I mic it, if you mic it up, the pickup's no good in it, to be honest. I think it's probably been in there longer than I've been on the planet. But I think when I mic it up and record with it, it sounds really kind of like low budget and lo-fi. It's got a certain sound. It sounds like old records when I record it. And there's nothing, it's a fairly kind of like standard run-of-the-mill, it's made in Italy as this one. It's kind of got this really interesting volute at the back, but it's got presence. Obviously, I've only got this microphone here, so you won't be able to really tell too much, but it does the dreadnought thing, but it kind of sounds like a dreadnought it's kind of got this kind of like mid-range thing about it that I really like. So yeah, this one's staying. So now we're in Superstrat territory. So anybody that knows me and sort of followed me this year will know that I've been on the journey of self-discovery via Superstrats. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that you'll have seen a video about a month ago that I posted about the one that got away. It was a blue Ibanez I had as a kid prior to the white Strat that we looked at earlier. And it kind of rekindled my passion for 80s kind of a little bit kind of excessive guitar virtuoso type players. George recently got himself a Superstrat and was sort of subliminally kind of sending me clips of people playing, and it sort of rekindled a little bit of something in my playing that I wanted to explore a bit further. So I've like, right, well, let's have a look and get a Superstrat. Now, the first two that I'm going to show you are kindly on loan from Ibanez, so thank you very much, Ibanez, for that, because they lent me some guitars to make the video. And it's actually led to the purchase of a different guitar, which we'll have a look at in a second. But a Superstrat's a completely different animal. I've got this blue Ibanez RG420, which is their kind of like, it's not entry level, it's like their mid-tier RG, but it's got this, it's an awesome guitar. But it's got got the humbucker and the 2 single coils. It's got the wizard neck and the edge tremolo, which is very kind of Floyd-like. I've really enjoyed playing this guitar this year. So the next one on the block is a blue floral print gem, which again is on loan from Ibanez for the video, and I'm really reluctant to give this guitar back. It's so gory and over the top and 80s, and I bloody love it. It's got the handle, it's got the DiMarzio pickups, it's got a lot. I really like this pattern. I always thought this guitar would be pretty cool if instead of doing it in blue, you did it in red. So it was black and red, all of this, and then you had a rosewood. You still kept the maple neck with the 2 skunk stripes, but you had a rosewood board and then the matching headstock at the top. I think that would be a really cool. I think they'd sell a lot of those. It's a really cool spec. This guitar I'm really reluctant to give back. It sounds awesome. It does everything a good Superstrat should do. And I was supposed to give these guitars back just before Christmas, and then they got busy. They had an event and stuff, and it was one of those where it's like, oh, we'll sort it out in the new year. So I'm kind of hoping that they'll forget about it. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'd be nice if they did. But no, thank you again for Ibanez. You really, really it's really cool working with these brands, and they actually trust you to send you guitars that are quite expensive guitars, and trust that I don't run away with them. So yeah, this guitar's great. I love it. Oh, it makes me play like a chav. I love it. So this one is actually my personal guitar. This came into the collection at sort of the back end of this year. This is an Ibanez RG420EX. So I did, if you watched any of the lessons that I did, the Bon Jovi lessons, and it's got this really cool kind of like firework kind of blood spatter thing about it. These aren't really MG pickups, but I'm on 2 minds really. I don't know whether to really kind of go this year, whether to go super hard on like try and get myself a gem or an Ibanez Prestige or a really kind of high level Ibanez and have all the work done for me, or whether I mod this guitar, because this is a really great foundation, but I find the pickups are a little bit weak. Now it is a kind of, it's not entry level, it's probably around the same ballpark as this RG460 4 Series Ibanez. And I don't know, there's just something about it. I just really get on with it, but I find the pickups are a little bit lackluster, and I just think it's a price point thing. But it does everything the other ones do. It's just not as aggressive, I think is the right. It's just not right playing blues licks on an Ibanez, is it? The final guitar I want to have a look at today is this Enya. I don't even know what this is called. Now, full disclaimer, Enya sent me this guitar not long after I did the demonstration on the white Enya Nova Go Sonic. This is their electric counterpart. I don't know if you can see. It's got like a speaker in it. It's a smart guitar, and the idea is that it's a travel guitar, but it's a travel electric guitar. So they've sent me this to do a demonstration in August, and I've just not got round to it because I got busy with the academy and stuff. I am going to do a full deep dive on this guitar, but again, it's 1-piece carbon fibre, and it's the electric equivalent of what the Nova Go Sonic that I'm giving away at Riffmas is for. And this is a great little guitar, but also they're not cheap, are these? When you start getting up into like smart guitars, everyone kind of goes, oh, they're a couple of £100 and they're a bit throwaway. This is like £500-600, and I can see where they've spent the money. The fretwork on this is excellent. And it sort of does everything from Strat straight through to... Sound even better if it was in tune, mind, but it's got the... You could definitely do worse for having a little travel guitar that you could take away. It comes in this nice little gig bag that's sort of, I think, could fit in an overhead locker of a plane. It's a really cool little guitar. There's a lot more to follow on this coming up in the new year. So that concludes the review for the 2025 guitar collection here at Kirklees Guitar School. What do I foresee for next year? I don't know if I'm going to need to start kind of implementing a one out, one in, one out policy. I think the 355 might go and be replaced with a proper Gibson counterpart. I'm not sure. And I've got an itch for a Jaguar. We'll see. I've got everything that I've wanted to teach online, I've had the right tool for the job. But I sort of think you can't beat the new guitar day kind of effect. I got the Quad Cortex this year, which has kind of negated getting any kind of amplifiers or pedals because that's already in there. And I don't know whether I start kind of chopping stuff in to sort of reduce the collection but get better quality stuff to replace it. I'm not sure. You'll have to tune in this time next year for the 2026 roundup.